Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James Strong, joined once again by my co-host Cody Tanner. Cody, how are you on this fine Friday morning?
James, I'm doing fantastic. Got some stuff going on. It's about to be football time again. 2 days. Pittsburgh will be playing again against the Los Angeles Chargers. We're excited for that. For 2-0 teams going head-to-head at each other, so we're excited for that. James, how are you doing on this Friday?
Doing well, brother. Doing well. I had my second round of PT yesterday, and the physical therapist is quite encouraged by the level of healing that my body has been able to do already. So
there we go.
Grateful for that. We're going to push it and see how quickly I can get back to work.
Yeah. Get that rotator going, baby.
Oh, yeah, man. It's getting there. We're getting there.
We're ready. We're ready. So, obviously, we're going to talk about the Chargers game. We're going to do our normal breakdown of injuries. It is early Friday morning, 8:41 a.m. We do not have practice results from today, depending on who's full practice, didn't participate, limited practice. We will make our best estimated guesses based on what we know for each player and what they've done already this week. And then we'll also go over the Chargers depth chart, discuss that, and give our 3 keys to success in beating the Los Angeles Chargers, as well as our score predictions. Make sure you guys share your score predictions and 3 keys to success down in the comments or with us on social media so we can talk about that on our Monday show. James, before we go too far, what you got?
There's a good reason that we don't have the results of today's practice yet, right?
Yeah, very good reason.
Because it hasn't happened yet.
Makes sense.
Continue with where you were going, yeah.
No, yeah. So before we go too far into that, we are going to talk some Steelers injuries and some moves that we made with rosters. But even before that, 7 Steelers, James, 7 former Steelers nominated for the 2025 Hall of Fame inductees. James, do you want to go over that list real quick?
I do, yes. Big list. Some of these guys sound real familiar, maybe some of them not as familiar. Starts off with what used to be the greatest kicker in Steelers history, and Gary Anderson. He played for like 20 dang years. Very accurate kicker. James Ferrier, another familiar name, was the captain on the defensive side of the football for those 2 Super Bowls in the 2000s. Casey Hampton, the dominant nose tackle during that same time frame. James Harrison, the one-time Defensive Player of the Year and 5-time Pro Bowler. John Kuhn, if that name doesn't sound quite as familiar, it's because most of his success was once he left the Steelers. He was a fullback for Pittsburgh. I want to say with Green Bay, he had like 3 or 4 Pro Bowls. So he has been nominated as well. Mike Vrabel, whose stint with Pittsburgh was very minimal, but had a lot of success with the New England Patriots. And then, of course, Hines Ward, who has been a semifinalist many years in a row now. The big question is, can any of these guys make it to the finalist stage? I think we're in a similar situation as previous, is where the 2 best options are going to be Hines Ward and James Harrison. Every year that a wide receiver goes and ends up getting into the Hall of Fame, it makes it that much easier for Hines. I haven't seen the whole list this year on who are like the new candidates, who are the shoo-ins to go. Usually there's at least like 2 or 3 that are, you see the name and you think, oh my goodness, they're definitely getting in. Makes it a little more difficult for the guys that have been trying for 10 years or more. But we'll see what that list looks like this year. I still think personally that James Harrison has a little bit stronger case than Hines Ward does. But we'll see what the voters think when that time comes.
So do you want to hear the list of wide receivers? I'm not going to read every single name on the list because there's 167.
There's probably 25 wide receivers. Or more.
So wide receivers are Anquan Bolden, Donald Driver, Antonio Freeman, Irving Fryer, Torrey Holt, who probably has a good chance.
That's a worry.
Joe Horn.
No.
Chad Johnson.
He must be first ballot. Dang it. Chad's going to get in.
Brandon Marshall, Derek Mason, Herman Moore, Muhsin Muhammad, Jordy Nelson, Andre Rison, Jimmy Smith, Rod Smith, Steve Smith Sr.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Here's another concern, just because of the situation. I feel like it plays a hand in it. Demarius Thomas,
Mm,
dependable.
he was good.
Yeah. Hines
I don't
Ward,
know about
Reggie Wayne,
Jesus.
Wes Welker, and
Oh,
Roddy
no.
White.
Oh, this got messy. This got messy. There's like 4 new dudes that'll easily get in before Hines. That's a problem.
Yeah. So
That's a problem, man. Dang it. Yeah, Chad Johnson will probably go first ballot, is my guess. But yeah, there's a few dudes on that list. I mean, Reggie Wayne, how does he not go first ballot?
Yep.
This is, oh boy, what a mess. And people will probably vote Wes Welker in before they vote Hines Ward in as well.
Yep.
Torrey Holt, I think he's been waiting for a while too. I think Torrey has been in that list with Hines for a number of years now.
Yep.
So he was probably looking forward to possibly having a better path, and then all these guys jump in front of him, and that's just the way it goes, man. That's the tough thing, is the further we get along in this football life, you get more and more guys that were in a passing offense their entire career.
Yep.
And putting up 100 yards or 100 receptions and 1,300, 1,400 yards and a dozen touchdowns a year was no big deal to him. And that was a lot bigger of a deal when Hines was playing. So could be tough for him, man.
Yep. And there's the first time, I think there's 16 total first time candidates. And I'm curious,
Was there like 4 or 5 of them are these wide receivers?
It's actually only one, which doesn't make sense to me.
Chad Johnson?
Apparently he's been there before.
What?
I don't know. The only one they're saying that's a first timer is Demarius Thomas.
Reggie Wayne didn't get in first time.
Apparently not.
Huh.
Crazy.
That makes it even more difficult.
That makes it worse.
If Chad Johnson and Reggie Wayne ain't getting in first ballot, then Hines is gonna wait for 20 years, man.
Yep. And then also the John Kuhn reference. He does have 3 Pro Bowls, a one-time first-team All-Pro, and only spent 1 year with Pittsburgh in his decorated career. So finished up in New Orleans Saints, if I'm not mistaken. So
gotcha.
Fun times. Now we're going to transition over to roster moves and things like that, injuries. Unfortunately, Tyler Matakevich did go to the IR. Very unfortunate for that. Ben Skoranek got promoted to the 55, and then he went to the IR.
Yep. Yeah, so that's supposed to say 53 there. I drew the 3 very horribly.
Yeah, you're
sorry
right.
about that.
I knew that.
But yeah, so this was a very strategic move, because if they put Ben Skoranek on the injured reserve from the practice squad, then technically you have to waive him first, and someone could claim him, and they could have lost him in the process. So the concept was, one day do Tyler Matakevich, wait till that's cleared, the next day promote Ben Skoranek, and then put him on the injured reserve, thus freeing a couple of spots both on the 53-man roster and on the practice squad as well. And then they made a slew of moves beyond that, signing wide receiver Jeray Jenkins and tight end Matt Sokol to the practice squad. They also signed defensive back Deshaun Jameson and cornerback James Pierre, if that name sounds familiar. He was the back of the roster corner for the Steelers, who was a starting gunner for a number of years. So all 4 of those guys, new additions to the practice squad. There were some subtractions to the practice squad, not as notable as far as those names. And then the big news after that, Rodney Williams promoted from the practice squad to the 53-man roster.
Yep.
So he will take the place of Tyler Matakevich on the roster. And then kind of technically Ben Skoranek after that, depending on how you want to look at it. But look for him to play a similar role on special teams as an interior blocker on that punt coverage unit. And he's a good coverage dude, but also you're in a situation, Mike Holpruitt's knee, we're not really sure how bad that is. Might need another tight end on the roster on offense as well. So Rodney Williams could end up in a situation where he's getting a lot of playing time very early on here.
Yep. Yeah, expect him to be highly involved with special teams and things like that, especially, kickoff and you process coverage, stuff like that. You will have something else.
Yes, James Pierre. I will be stunned if James Pierre is not elevated on game day. So look for that transaction to happen tomorrow. He's most likely going to be the starting gunner for at least a couple of weeks there on the one side. They had Darius Rush previously on the other side.
Yep.
So I would expect to see James Pierre take over Ben Skoronek's side since he was the starting gunner the first couple of weeks.
Yep. With that being said, we're going to transition over and discuss injuries for both teams real quick. So I'll go over Pittsburgh if you want to go over the Chargers, James. Pittsburgh, we know most of these. Russell Wilson dealing with that calf injury. He's been limited all week. More than likely going to be limited Friday. Will not go for the game. Roman Wilson dealing with the ankle injury was limited on Wednesday. Full participation on Thursday. If he's full on Friday, he still could be a game time decision. I don't expect to see him yet, but I would love to. Najee Harris was just non-injury related, just getting him some rest on Wednesday. He was full practice on Thursday, going to be full practice today. Isaac Seumalo dealing with that pectoral injury, didn't practice all week, not going to practice today, will be out again. Michael Pruitt dealing with the knee injury, didn't participate Wednesday and Thursday, more than likely out, so that will automatically upgrade Rodney Williams to that number 3 tight end. Technically number 4 if you want to count Connor Hayward as well. TJ Watt, Larry Ogunjobi, and Cam Hayward were all non-injury related this week with rest. Most of that rest coming on Wednesday with TJ and Ogunjobi limited. Cameron Hayward just didn't practice. And then Thursday, Cam also did not participate. And then the other 2 were full on Thursday. Expect all 3 of those guys to play.
So big things on this. Isaac Seumalo has been seen going through stretching lines.
Mm-hmm.
So he's taking a step in the right direction. Obviously, with him not even being limited either of those days, you don't expect to see him ready for this week's game, but he's getting closer. So nice signs. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some limited in practice next week with Isaac Seumalo. Big move for Roman Wilson, right? Back to
Very
a full
big
participation. This is what we saw last week. He was limited Wednesday, full Thursday, and then he went back to limited on Friday last week. So we're going to keep an eye on that injury report. If he's full again today, he might be ready to go. They might be ready to march him back on that field and get him on that offense, start getting him involved, which would be at a fantastic time, right? We're starting to see more involvement from Ben Skoranek. Let's see what Roman Wilson can do. He's a very explosive wide receiver with really nice blocking capability. So
yep.
From a smaller guy, that's something that would be a really, really welcome sight. So
I don't know if you saw this, but he said he's been studying some tape on a specific player. Did you see that?
Yeah, Mike Evans.
Mike Evans.
He's like, why weird one?
Why wouldn't I want to be that guy? I was like, well, you're a little short, but that's fine.
Yeah. Isn't Mike Evans like 6'5", 230 pounds?
Hey, if you want to learn something, go for it.
He's like 5'10", 185. I mean, whatever. Definitely. I mean, here's the nice thing. If that's somebody you're patterning yourself after, he's the model of consistency.
Yep.
Right. I saw somewhere where Mike Evans has like 10 consecutive seasons with 1,000+ receiving yards. So when you're talking about longevity of a career and consistency at a high level of play, that's a heck of a role model to have. So I'm very, very okay with using him for a role model.
Yep.
Onto the Chargers side of things. Number 1 on the list, Joey Bosa is being limited in practice thus far this week with a hip injury. I expect him to play. I'm sure they're just taking it easy on him in practice so they can be a little healthier for the game.
Yep.
Junior Colson, the middle linebacker or off-ball linebacker, has a hamstring injury, has not practiced this week. I would expect him to not be ready to go. Bud Dupree, the outside linebacker, has had an illness, so sick for a couple of days, both Wednesday and Thursday. That's completely unpredictable. You could go from not participating at all to full participation the next day. So I don't know what's going on with Bud. We might see him, we might not see him. He's just a backup for them these days anyway.
Yep.
But that's a pretty high-quality backup outside linebacker. Safety Alohi Gilman, limited on Thursday. Also on Wednesday, he's got a knee baby. I would probably expect him to play also. Justin Herbert, that's the big news this week, right? He had x-rays on his ankle earlier in the week, did not reveal any fracture. He did not participate Wednesday, limited in practice on Thursday. He's going to play. Let's just put this out there. It doesn't matter what the practice report says tomorrow.
Yep.
Justin Herbert's going to play. He'll be back there, but expect him to be a little limited in his ability. If he's got an ankle that hurt so bad they were worried about whether or not it was broken, he's not going to be anywhere near 100%, which for us is good news because the first time we saw Justin Herbert, he ran for over 100 yards against us. He had a hell of a scrambling performance that day. Next on their list, Hayden Hurst, the tight end, has an ankle also, was limited both days. Khalil Mack just getting a rest day on Wednesday, went back full. So that's their starting duo these days, Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. What a combination, man. Wow. Past that, Josh Palmer, the wide receiver. He's got a elbow and a calf. He didn't practice either day. I would not expect him to play. Finally on their list, defensive back Jasir Taylor has a fibula injury. Did not practice Wednesday, was limited Thursday. He might be ready to go. That might just be like a deep bone bruise. Sometimes you get those and they're just real painful.
Yep.
When I saw that, I was like, how do you have an injury to a fibula and still play? You would think it would be a broken bone, but apparently not the case, or I can't imagine he would even be limited.
Yeah, no. So excited to see a lot of our guys hopefully get out there. Again, we do expect Herbert to play. That's the big one. But yeah, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, the defense is very good there. But speaking of defense and just the team overall, let's jump over and talk about their depth chart, talk about the roster, who we're going up against. So obviously Justin Herbert is the quarterback. We expect him to start. Justin has had a successful career so far, but it's been slow moving. I feel like he hasn't either had, the receivers haven't played up to par, or the defense hasn't been able to stop teams from putting up points. I feel like this Chargers team has potential to be very, very good, especially under a new coach and a successful coach at that. But just curious to see what happens with this team. Again, we're 2-0, they're 2-0 going up against each other. I do expect Justin Herbert to have a good game. I'm hoping it's not too good. I'd like to force some turnovers, but we'll get to that later. And then running back, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are listed as the pair starting duo. Expect both of them to get a good portion of touches for this game. Wide receiver room is Quentin Johnson, DJ Chark, and Josh Palmer. All those guys are very, very capable receivers. Semi Fehoko is a name that we recognize as a backup as well. Used to play for us.
Lad McConkey there as well. That's the rookie, I believe.
And Brendan Rice. And Brendan Rice. Yeah.
McConkey was the extremely talented route runner who was very elusive. Brendan Rice, significant, as Cody mentioned there, because if you're not familiar with who that is, Jerry Rice's son.
Yep.
So very deep wide receiver room, great talent at the top end, and some very serious potential in behind them.
Yeah, very capable wide receiver core. Someone else who might be catching balls, tight ends Hayden Hurst and Will Dissly, both listed as joint starters. Expect both of them to get good playing time. They don't have a fullback listed on their depth chart. I'm assuming they just don't have one. And then James, this offensive line is very capable as well. Rashawn Slater, the left tackle, backed up by Foster Sorrell. Left guard Zion Johnson, backed up by Jordan McFadden. Center Bradley Bozeman, backed up by Brendan James. Right guard Trey Pimpkins the third, and backed up by Jameer Saylor. And then the right tackle, the rookie Joe Alt, backed up by Alex Leatherwood. Joe Alt being the highly regarded right tackle that was drafted this year. So expect TJ to have a fun time going up against him. I'm excited for that matchup. I'm very excited for that matchup.
This is by far the most talented offensive line that this unit has gone against this far, right? So you got 2 first-round picks at tackle, Rashawn Slater on the left, who is very accomplished. Joe Alt, who was the top offensive tackle in this last draft.
Yep.
Just a mountain of a man, very athletic, very long, very strong. There does not appear to be a weakness to Joe Alt's game. So, yes, this is going to be a very, very serious challenge for TJ Watt. If he can have production against a guy like Joe Alt, man, there isn't really anybody in this league that can slow him down, but a lot of people have said that for a while. And that interior 3, nothing to laugh at, right? So,
no.
Very solid offensive line with 2 first-round offensive tackles. Very formidable group. You want me to start on that defensive front there, Cody?
Yeah, go for it. Hey, and a
All right.
reminder, we also have 2 first round tackles. Just only one of them is playing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're going to see some similarities on this defense right now as well. When we start off with the edge rusher group and Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, 2 highly skilled defensive end edge types, right? Depending on what you call it. It looks
Yep.
like they run a 3-4. So these are going to be outside linebackers in their unit. So Khalil Mack, former defensive player of the year, kind of like TJ. Joey Bosa, an excellent number 2, kind of like Alex Highsmith. Very similar parallels can be drawn. And again, like we mentioned, they have Bud Dupree and Tui Pelotu backing them up. Some real nice talent in behind those 2 front guys. On that defensive line on the interior, we got Puna Ford playing the nose. Otito Ogbanya at the one outside edge.
Now you know why I let you have the defense.
Fox on the other. What's that?
I said, now you know why I let you have the defense.
I got some fun names here, man. I'm up to the challenge. So that's your defensive front. On to the linebackers, just 2 middle linebackers similar to Pittsburgh's scheme. They have Denzel Perryman and Dayon Henley, 2 pretty well-skilled linebackers. Their backups, Troy Dye and Nick Neiman, also of some pedigree, and some younger guys at that. I also see Junior Colson. My goodness, that's the Michigan kid that just came out recently that was pretty highly thought of. So some really nice depth at their linebacker core. Now into the secondary we go. And we've got another highly skilled secondary, Cody. So this is going to parallel more of what we saw week 1 with the Falcons as far as a very serious secondary. Asante Samuel Jr. starting on one side. Kristen Fulton starting on the other side. Correct me if I'm wrong. Christian Fulton, either a former 1st or 2nd round pick. I know he was a high pick when he came out as a rookie, but it's been a few years now, obviously. So a very high pedigree with these corners here. The safeties, maybe you've heard of him before, Derwin James. He came out same year as Minka Fitzpatrick. That was safety 1, safety 2, 1A, 1B kind of thing. People had different flavors of what they liked, but Derwin James, extremely talented. And then Alohi Gilman, the other safety. If the name sounds familiar, he was on that injury report. If there's anybody on this group of 4 that is not like superstar or super high pedigree, it's Alohi Gilman, and I don't think he's bad by any means.
Yeah, Fulton was a 2nd round pick, 61st overall in 2020.
Yeah, I thought he was 1st or 2nd. Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be one of the better. Let me clarify. It's the best defense we played all year by far.
Yep.
And it shows they're 2-0 for a reason. So real excited for the test. This, I think, is going to put a true test on that offensive line for sure. As well as, can George Pickens go up against these guys? Aren't, I wouldn't say they're top 5 corners or anything like that, top 10. But they're capable. They're qualified. They're going to try to do different things. I'm curious to see if Asante Samuel Jr. will travel with him or not. I don't know how they do their defense quite to the exact, but I'm curious to see who they're going to have one-on-one with him, if they're going to play more zone consistently, if they're going to play man. James also looking at the special teams here because that matters too. Cameron Dicker is their kicker. Okay. Dicker the kicker. J.K. Scott is their punter. Josh Harris, the long snapper, because long snappers matter too. And then they have Darius, just ask the Bengals, Darius Davis and Ladd McConkey listed as kick return and punt return guys. So excited to see that. Excited to see this whole team, this matchup. James, since 2012, we've played 5 times with them, and we've alternated wins and losses every single time. The most recent time being in 2021, when we lost to them 41-37, which was our first time running into Justin Herbert. So
that was the time he scrambled for like 110 yards or some ridiculous number. I know it was over exact number, but every time he scrambled, it seemed like nobody could touch him. He was way faster than anybody realized.
90 yards on 9 carries.
Oh, I thought it was more than 90, but still
90 on 9 is still too much.
10 yards a carry. You don't expect that out of the guy that you thought was more of a pocket passer, but certainly ended up not being that. So
yeah, the last time we beat them was in 2019, 24-17, James, and I'm going to ask you, who was the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers that day?
In what was the year?
2019. I give you
Was
a
it
hint, but I give it.
Devlin Hodges?
It was Devlin Hodges.
Yeah.
It was
Let's
Devlin
talk about
Hodges.
the duck.
I was going to say quack, quack, but never mind. I didn't need to. So, yeah, the last time we beat them was with Devlin Hodges at quarterback,
Wow.
which is pretty crazy. And the time we beat them before that, it was Mike Vick. So,
Jeez, so Ben didn't even really have a history of beating this team. That's funny.
Oh man, it is funny. It's sad too. But with that being said, that wraps up going over their roster and everything else. It's going to be a challenge.
History of like certain guys versus certain teams and whatnot. Last week was the first time Mike Tomlin ever beat Sean Payton.
I saw that.
For 3 versus him previously. Yep. So pretty big accomplishment for Mike Tomlin on that one. But yeah, we got our 3 keys to success. Cody, this week it's your turn to go first.
Oh.
I took the pole position last week.
You did.
So I'm going to let you give your 3 this week first.
So I don't know if you knew this, James, or not. I'm assuming you could probably figure it out knowing how the team has fared offensively and defensively so far. Pittsburgh does lead the turnover differential for the season so far. They are +5.
Best in the NFL?
Best in the NFL so far. That's what happens when you don't turn the ball over. With that being said, James, I'm going that direction this time because I feel like this is the defense that could really challenge us in this aspect. Key number 1, win the turnover battle. Allow us to continue play mistake-free football as far as turnovers. I'd like to fix the penalties as well. But if we can stay turnover-free and force 1 or 2, it gives us a chance to really come out and put a decent lead. I would like to have a 2-score lead at some point in this game. I think that'd be very impressive, especially making a name for Pittsburgh. Everyone thinks we're phony right now. We're fakers. We're posers. We're not actually supposed to be 2-0. I would like to see us win that turnover battle. Number 2, James. I want to see the offense score 2 offensive touchdowns. I don't care how. I don't care who. 2 offensive touchdowns is a key to success. We need to stop relying on the defense so much and the leg of Chris Boswell. I want to see the offense put up some points. I'm excited for that. And last but not least, James, it's going to be a continuation from last week. I want to see another week of improved third down conversion percentages. I'm hoping that I don't have this goal again anytime soon. I'm hoping that we just continue in the upward trend there and we can convert 75% of our third down attempts.
I like it. So nothing there overlapped with mine at all, which is great. Number 1, well, one of them, you'll see that. My number 1 key, and this is something that Pittsburgh has made a move in order to try to improve this area. Mike Tomlin brought in officials for practice Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week.
Yep.
Number 1 key for me is less penalties. Way too many penalties in the first 2 weeks. And a lot of those penalties took away big plays, took away touchdowns, took away first downs on third downs. Can't have that many penalties again against a team like the Chargers, who are actually a good team. The first 2 teams not as talented.
Nope.
Looks like maybe the Falcons were better than they thought, right?
Yep.
After beating the Eagles, maybe that team's a little bit better than people gave him credit for. And maybe Kirk Cousins isn't quite as washed. Maybe he just went against a really, really good defense. Anyway, that's my number 1 key. Got to cut down on these penalties. If you're beating yourself, it's tough to beat the opponent as well.
Yep.
Number 2, I think we got really lucky in the first 2 weeks with Fields fumbles. He has fumbled multiple times in each of these games. We've been lucky and recovered it, whether it be he's not ready for the snap when it comes, whether it's a center quarterback exchange. There's been a couple of these, each of these games, and somehow we've been lucky enough to recover all of them. That's not going to continue. At a certain point in time, if you keep fumbling, the other team will recover it. It's only a matter of time, and then it's going to start costing you games. So we just got to eliminate the Fields fumbles, and I think that will help out tremendously. Also, sometimes when that happens and they recover it, it kills the drive. That's happened on third downs a couple of times where you don't even get a chance to actually execute the play, and now you're punting because of the fumble.
Yep.
Number 3 and final key, you will not guess, especially since I'm wearing the throwback Jack Lambert jersey today. I want to see a big day from the middle linebackers. I'm not saying any specific numbers, but I want to see a crap load of tackles. I want to see tackles for loss, passes broken up, maybe even some forced fumbles and interceptions. I don't want to look at the stat line after this game and see 2 tackles for this guy, 3 tackles for this guy, 2 tackles for that guy. I need lots of tackles out of our middle linebackers. I need them heavily involved. And I need that because this rushing attack for the Chargers is very, very good. It's the running backs from the Ravens. They came over, right? J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. They both had tons of success in Baltimore, and they're having lots of success here with the Chargers. So we got to get Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, Elandon Roberts heavily involved and early. Get on the other side of the line of scrimmage and start hitting those guys before they can get to the line of scrimmage. So I need a big day from our middle linebackers for Pittsburgh to have a winning game against the Chargers.
The Chargers. James, it has been approximately. First off, I like those 3 keys. That's great.
Thank you.
That's great. The fumbles and the penalties are really big. I almost put penalties on mine. I want to ask you a trivia question.
All right. I like trivia.
When was the last time Pittsburgh played the Chargers in September?
In September?
In September.
Boy, there's no way that I'll know that one. So let me just throw a number out there and go 1980.
Ooh, 19 what?
82.
10 years off, 1992. 1992. Okay. They played 9 months before I was born in 92. And it was Neil O'Donnell against 2 quarterbacks for the Chargers, who both had horrible ratings. 1 threw 2 interceptions, the other one threw 1. Barry Foster and Merrill Hodge were the lead running backs for the Steelers at the time. And Pittsburgh ended that game with a 23-6 victory. So, James, as we head to score predictions, in honor of that game, 23-6 is my score prediction. Steelers over the Chargers.
Okay, Cody's going 23-6. Wow.
Yeah.
That's not where I'm at all, buddy.
I know it's not.
This is the first week that I'm real concerned. And I try never to pick the opponent to win a game because it's just not my style, man. But I'm very nervous about this one. I'm going to go 24-23. Pittsburgh edges them out.
Okay. I like it. With that being said, there's not much more to talk about for this game. We want to make sure you guys are seeing this stuff, engaging in it. We're trying to share as much as we can on all social media platforms and do more things for you guys, create more content, and get engagement from you guys. With that being said, make sure you guys like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Subscribe, ring the bell. It's free. It don't cost you a thing. And don't forget the 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts make James here real happy. And oh my Lanta, we got 2-0 teams going at it this year or this week. So until next time, this is your host, James and Cody, signing off.
Peace.